Hey everyone, welcome back. If you're watching this video, I'm assuming that you've purchased my spreadsheet and you're looking for some tips on how to fill it out to take advantage of the features that it offers. First of all, thanks so much. I think that you'll find it can be a useful tool in helping measure your business. And I'll be getting to that in this video pretty quickly. So stay tuned. The entirety of this video is going to be about how to fill it out so that you take advantage of all the features and then you can quickly get started on this form. If you're watching this video and you're interested in my spreadsheet and you're not sure if you want to purchase yet or not, I do have a shorter video that will explain and show some previews of how it works, show all the features, and you can find that in my channel. From that video, and I'll go ahead and post in this video too, you can find the links to purchase my spreadsheet. Once you purchase, it will download automatically to your computer. With today's video, I'm going to be going over a lot of the features and how specifically to enter the data into this spreadsheet. It'll be very thorough and detailed, and it's going to be pretty lengthy because of that. So I'm going to go ahead and put titled chapter breaks in the description of this video. If you're just looking for a few quick pointers and you want to go quickly to that part of the video, feel free to click along and just find a place where you need to start watching from. And with that being said, since this is going to be a longer video, let's go ahead and get started right now. So now that you've got your spreadsheet, it's going to come in the form of a Google Doc. The reason why I picked a Google Doc is because it's very easy to use no matter which computer or system you're using, and you can quickly save it in the cloud on your Google Drive. So no matter whether you're logging in from your computer, your laptop, your phone, you can pull up your spreadsheet, your numbers very easily. So let's jump right into it. I'm going to be starting with the basic version so that those who purchase the basic can hop out of the video whenever they're done. And then I'll get onto the premium features after that. Just know that the basic is identical to the premium. It's just that the premium has a few more options. So if you purchase the premium, you'll definitely want to be paying attention to this because it's very similar. So once you get your Google Sheet, you'll save it to your Google Drive so that no matter what changes you make, it will automatically save. So here's the basic sheet. It's going to be blank. Obviously, if you look at all of these tabs, they're all blank. They're all saying 0 because we haven't entered any information into this sheet. So the first thing you're going to start off more than likely is with the active listings. Now this is very simple to use. The first thing you're going to do is put in your listing date. So let's just pretend that today is January 1st. I'm going to put in 1/1. And then after I've listed an item on whatever platform you're on, you're going to go ahead and enter a title. Make it a title that works for you. I use a lot of abbreviations in mine to make it short and quick. It's easy to just go in and quickly post this stuff. When I usually do this, I'll usually do like men's with an M or F for female if I'm doing clothing. And let's just say I'm listing an LL Bean red button-down shirt, medium. That's very similar to how I would do it, but you make it your own. I'm always going to put in 1 unit. This is going to be really important that you put the 1 unit in there, and I'll come back to that later, but just put a 1. Even if you've got, say, 5 plates that you're selling in one listing. So again, put a 1 and then you move on. The SKU is obviously going to be your personal place. So whether this is a bin that you have this in, or whether this is in a closet or a room, this SKU is for you to quickly find where it is when it sells. So for me, I've got a system where I do a letter and a number. Let's just say that this is B4. And then you'll notice 2 green columns there. Don't mess with those, leave those alone because they will populate into the next spreadsheet and keep the format the same. So if you delete those, you may have some issues later on. Now I'm gonna put in the cost, very simple. Let's just say this shirt cost $4. I've left room for you to put some notes for your information. Sometimes I'll put in here like this item was relisted because it was returned. If you need to put some notes in here, that column is there for that. And really it's that simple. Let's say I listed another item because usually you will list in batches. I'll go ahead and put in the date. And then let's make this women's Eddie Bauer cardigan sweater, brown, large. I'm gonna put in 1 unit. And then let's put this in C2. And let's pretend that this costs $7.75. So that is very simple. I don't think I need to go any further on this. That is how you're going to enter your data into the listings tab, which you'll notice is appropriately titled active. Now we sold an item and we need to move it from the active listings tab to this sales tab. You'll notice this is blank. Obviously, we haven't made a sale yet according to this video. So we're gonna log our first sale now. So for the sake of this video, let's pretend that this one I just listed, the women's Eddie Bauer cardigan sweater, just sold. So I'm gonna come in here and highlight everything from listed date to the cost, and I'm gonna copy it. I'm going to go to the sales tab, and you're going to find the appropriate column titled date listed. And there you're just going to paste it right into this form. And you'll notice it pastes everything from the last tab into here. And these two columns right here are why I am instructing you not to delete those green rows that you see in the first tab. Now, the other thing that you need to do is fill in this information before this title. Now, you'll see that on this title, I've got month, enter 1 to 12. So you're going to find the month that it sold and put the appropriate number. So let's pretend that I am now in March, and let's say it's March 17th. I'm going to put the date that it sold, March 17th, and I'm going to put the month that it sold in, which would be 3 for March, obviously. You'll notice here this next column, days to sell, and it says auto underneath it. That means it's going to automatically populate a number. You don't need to put anything in this column. Once I fill in the rest of this data, it's going to go ahead and populate the amount of days that it took to sell automatically. Now we're going to come into here and put the price that it sold for and the shipping that the buyer paid. So let's pretend that it sold for $30 and the shipping income was $12. I'm going to put that in. You'll notice that as soon as I put in the sales price, it automatically populated the days to sell. 75 days total. Now that number is going to pull into another spreadsheet. That's why I have it here. Hopefully for you, you'll start to see how many days your items are taking to sell, and that can be very useful for you to know whether that is increasing or decreasing, whether you're getting better at what you're doing, or whether you need to focus some more attention there. Okay, so I've entered the information. I have entered the price and the shipping income. There's one other thing I want to mention here. Let's say you sold this item on eBay with free shipping. Maybe your strategy is you don't charge for shipping. Then you can just leave the shipping income blank. So just put the sales price in the column and then move on. You don't need to enter anything into shipping income if you're not charging shipping. There are cases in which a platform charges shipping and the buyer pays for it. Like for example, Poshmark. On Poshmark, you charge a set amount to sell the item, and then Poshmark deals with the shipping. In that case, you don't need to put shipping in there either, because you're not paying for the shipping at all. Poshmark is taking care of it. So on platforms where you either are doing free shipping, or on platforms where the shipping is handled, say, with the platform, you don't need to do anything there. Poshmark, Mercari, eBay, if you're free shipping, you can leave this column blank. Just put in the sales price. Hopefully that makes sense. So you'll see that I've got cost of goods sold. That's how much you paid to get that item at a thrift store. $7.75 is what I paid hypothetically to get this sweater. Your shipping fee is going to be how much you yourself paid in order to ship the item. Pretty straightforward. Platform fees, it doesn't matter whether it sells on eBay, Poshmark, Mercari, whatever their fee is, you'll put it in here. Ad and promoted fees, if you're selling on like eBay, or if you're boosting items on Facebook and those are selling with ad fees, you can go ahead and put that information in here. That's the column for those. Lastly, I've got just a random PayPal or processing fee column. And this is for places like Mercari, where they've got a Mercari fee, a selling fee, and then they have a processing fee. You can put that processing fee here in this column. With all the other fees, if you don't have an ad fee, just leave it blank. It doesn't matter, just don't fill it out. Let's say that this sweater shipped for $10.86. I'm gonna put that in my shipping fee. And you'll notice that when I enter in fees, this starts to calculate and change. Let's say the platform fee was $5.75. For the sake of this video, I'm gonna go ahead and say that I had a $1.33 ad fee, and then I'm gonna say that I don't have a processing fee. Let's pretend this sold on eBay. So you'll notice that total fees, which is all of these white columns in here, are $25.69. It's adding up for you automatically how much your total expenses were with the sale of this item. That is your total cost of goods, the price you paid to sell the item. And then lastly, the most important column of this whole chart is your profit. In this case, I made $16.31. So this is gonna take these two figures and add them up, and then subtract the total cost of goods. Now that's how you log a sale, but there's one other thing I wanna show you. Whenever you log a sale, you need to go delete it from your active listings because it's no longer active. So I'm gonna come to this column highlight it, and just click delete and take it out of my active listings. All right, now I wanna show you the fun part. Because we just sold that item, I wanna show you how it's gonna trickle into the other tabs. Let's take a look at daily. Now it's pretty straightforward what this is. This is gonna calculate daily sales. There are many times that I'm curious, like how much money did I have in sales today across a lot of platforms? If you're just on eBay, it's kind of easy to calculate because eBay gives that to you. But let's say you're on other platforms and you wanna know how much did I make in total on all of these platforms. Based on the information that you put into this spreadsheet, it's gonna go ahead and drop it into this form. Now remember, I logged that sale on March 17th. And if I come down here to March 17th, it automatically dropped in the sales price that I included on that sale. It's gonna take your sales price plus your shipping, combine them together, and add it on this column. So we had the $30 sale of the sweater plus 12 shipping for $42 total. And you'll notice that that pops into the daily sales for $42 total. Let's just go ahead and log this other sale real quick. So I'm gonna copy and paste it into here. And let's say this sold on the very same day. So month is March. 317. And for this shirt, I'm gonna say it sold for $20 plus 6 shipping. I'm gonna put a shipping fee of, let's say it was $5.96 to ship. My platform fee was $2.25. And let's say it didn't sell promoted this time. I made a profit of $13.79 on that shirt. Then we're gonna come in here and delete this active listing. So right now we've logged 2 sales on the same day, and then I'll show you as you go to this next tab, it's gonna go ahead and show $68 as total sales for March 17th. If you're getting this before 2022, you can start logging on January 1st, and all of these days will start populating as you log. So because I picked March 17th, everything else is 0 except for March 17th. Now I wanna show you the monthly tab. If we go over to this next tab, which to me is my favorite tab on this whole sheet, it starts to tell me my monthly averages. Now keep in mind, again, I haven't logged any other sales but those 2 from March, so nothing's gonna show up except for the month of March. But let's go ahead and take a look at this. I wanna explain to you really quickly kind of the breakdown of this. So you've got your months here for the year 2022, the amount of days that are in each month. Then you've got total sales. So as you can see, those 2 sales totaled $68 and they populated into March. Sales per day is gonna take your total sales and divide by the number of days in the month. So it's taking the $68 and dividing by 31 to get $219. Now this may sound confusing, but when you start off a month and you've only put in a couple of days of data, it's still gonna divide by the whole month. Long story short, I don't really pay attention to this column until I get to the end of the month. I can quickly see how much I made per day on average. Units sold is pretty straightforward. We sold 2 units in March and they're showing up. Units sold per day to me is very similar to sales per day. It's taking the number of units that I sold, dividing by the number of days in the month. So after your month has ended, you can come back and take a look at this column and see your units per day. This next column is a great one, also known as ASP, average sales price per unit. So what is the average sales price for each unit that you sold in the month of March? It's gonna take the sales and divide by 2, because we made 2 sales, to give me $34. So this is where you can start to notice what are your average sales price, and if you're not happy with it, you can do things to try and increase it. Profit is going to pull from the sales tab. It's gonna total all of the numbers in this column that equal this month. So when I look at my profit, for those 2 sales, I've already made $30.10 in profit. Of course, there are other things out there that are going to eat into profit, like gas that you spent to get to the store, or whether you have subscription services or eBay store fees or things like that. It's not going to include those numbers. This is the amount that you made after you sold the item. This next column, profit per unit, is going to take the profit from the month, divide by the units sold to tell you how much profit did you make per unit. I love this stat because I want to know how much am I making on each item. If I know how much I'm making on each item and I can project how many units I'm going to sell a day, I can start to get an idea of how much money I'm gonna make every day. Then I can either just list more items or I can look for better items. There are things that you can do to manipulate that to help drive more sales in and make more money. And this next column is margin. Generally speaking, margin is the percent that you are getting after all of your fees. And in this case, 44%. This next column is return on investment, ROI. ROI, generally speaking, is the percent that you're getting from what you're spending. So to make this simple, let's just do this. Here's how I think about it in my business. If I go to a store and I spend $100 and I know that my ROI is typically 256%, then that would mean that on the $100 I spent, those items will bring in a profit of $256. So that's how I get a general idea for the amount of money I'm gonna bring in on what I'm spending. This next column is average cost of goods sold, and it's gonna take this column, so in this case, 1175, and divide by your units to tell you the average amount that you're spending on items at the store. So for these two items that I sold, I'm spending an average of $588 per item. And then you'll notice here, next column, average days to sell. For this example, in the month of March, what's the average days that's taking those items to sell? Well, we've only logged 2 items, but in this case, it's 75 days. But this will generally give you an idea of whether you're getting better at what you're doing and that's going down, or whether this number is going up and you need to figure out why is it taking so long to sell my items. Now, quick break here. Remember, all this information is for you. This isn't to say that you're doing it wrong or that you need to do something different. This data is for you to look at and see, how am I growing? And if you're not growing, what can I do to make things better? This is simply to tell you the pure numbers and help you make decisions based on that. Moving along, we've got a few columns here that are manual entry, and you can see that I've listed these as manual entry. We've got units listed and then inventory at the start of the month. This is going to require you to put numbers in here if you want to calculate sell-through rate and your inventory growth rate. So if you don't want to calculate those numbers, you don't have to put anything in here. You can leave these blank. Just know that you won't get the sell-through rate and you won't get the unit growth rate. It doesn't matter when you get the spreadsheet, whether it's at the beginning of the year or in the middle. Start with whatever month you're on and then work your way down. For this sake, remember I listed 2 items in January, so I'm going to go ahead and put 2 items here. And you'll notice that this goes up by 2 because I listed 2 items. Let's, for the sake of this video, go ahead and just assume that I had 100 items in my inventory when I started this month. I usually have a calendar notification on this to remind me at the first of each month to go in and do this. I'll look at my inventory and put in the amount of items that I have in my stores. So we're gonna put in 100 in that column. And then as you list items, don't forget to come back here and increase this column. So let's say I list another 10 items in one day. I'm gonna go ahead and add 10 to make that 12. And then you'll see how this quickly changes once you do that. As you start to fill this out, this will start to populate the sell-through rate and the unit growth or decline. So let's just keep it there. Let's say that I listed 12 items in the month of January. Let's say I listed 25 items in the month of February. In March, I had a little setback and I only listed 20. As you can see, this will just slowly increase or decrease based on the amount of items that you're selling and the amount of items that you're listing. So if you look at this, I listed 12 in January, I listed 25 in February, and I listed 20 in March. But you'll see that it says I grew by 18. Why is that not 20? Well, this is 18 because I actually sold 2 units in March. So this is going to subtract and account for the units that I sold as well. Then you can look down here at the bottom. For the total year, I've grown 55 units. This will continue to add and decrease based on whether you're selling items or whether you're listing items. So this will constantly fluctuate. In my business, I use this to see, did I sell more items than I listed, or am I listing more than I sold? Generally, I want to keep growing every month. I want to list more than I'm selling, but that's how I use it. Now you'll notice the sell-through rate on this says 0%, even though I've entered some numbers in here. This really won't account for the first month because it's using the prior month's inventory to calculate sell-through rate. So once I get down to my second month, let's say I had 100 to start January, I listed 12. For this argument, I didn't sell any, so I grew 12. So at the beginning of February, I should have 112. In February, I listed 25, so that should put me at about 137. It started to populate 1.5% for the month of March because I actually sold 2 units here. So the sell-through rate is going to take the amount that I sold, so 2 units, and divide by my inventory as I started the month. Sell-through rate basically means the amount of your inventory that you're selling each month. A lot of resellers like to have like a 25 to 35% sell-through rate. Mine's never that high. I'm usually between 15 and 20%, but that's just a strategy that I do. I price mine higher, so it takes a little longer for them to sell. But the sell-through rate is to help you see how much of your inventory every month are you getting rid of. And then scrolling down, we've only logged 2 sales, as I've said many times, but you'll notice that those sales will start to show up down here. So for March, those sales are populating total sales. And this is where you can kind of get a visual of these numbers here in this column. Total profit will do the same as the sales. It's going to take this column right here, profit, and put it into a chart. Your average sales price. When I started off, I was selling items, and then about a year in, I decided I wanted to push my sales price up, so I started looking for better items. And this would be really helpful because I would look at it to see, is my sales price going up? Then your average profit per item will be captured right here in this chart. And then total units listed, which is going to capture this data. So if you don't put any numbers here in this column, this chart isn't going to populate. So just keep that in mind. It'll just be a blank chart. All right, last thing for the basic users, and then we'll move on to the premium spreadsheet. This last tab is your end of year totals and averages. So when you get to this chart, you can see things like total sales for the year, total profit for the year. Remember, 2 sales, so they're showing up here. Total units listed, 57, total units sold, and then your difference. So you grew 55 units that year. And then these will be a lot of averages on this side. Average sales per month. Now, if you're looking at this, you may think 567, that's not a lot of money to make per month in sales. But remember, it's taking those 2 sales, $68 total, and dividing by the total month. So these averages are going to be more accurate the closer we get to the end of the year. So I would suggest not really looking much at this chart until it gets to the end of the year, and you can kind of look back and review. Average sales per day. If you only made those 2 sales all year, you would average 19 cents a day. Now remember, these numbers are really just for you to help you know how you're doing now so that you can project that into the future, whether you want to stay the same, grow, and what changes you need to make to do that. So this average sales price, if you remember from monthly, for March, we were averaging $34 sales price. And for the year, because we've only sold those 2 items in this example, it's still showing 34, but this will take the whole year into account and give you one number, which will be your average sales price for the year. Average profit per month, average profit per day, and average profit per unit. This number down here, I really like these 2 columns. You can definitely decide on how you want to use this data. I've got average days to sell a unit and median days to sell a unit. More than likely, these 2 numbers are going to be different as you start to fill out this information. I usually look at average days. The reason why I threw median days in here is because median helps to kind of eliminate those outliers, those numbers that are way out on extremes, and kind of just get to a more accurate number. Again, the average cost per unit sold is going to be your average price that you spent on an item at a thrift store. In this example, would be $5.88. Margin for the year, so for all the sales that you made, this will be the percent that you made back in profit, 44%. And of course, I explained ROI earlier. This will be your ROI for the year. Now, there's one other thing I want to explain to you before I conclude kind of the basic explanation on this basic spreadsheet. So what do you do when you get a return? Here's what I do when I get a return on my spreadsheet. Let me show you. So let's say that on this item right here, this LL Bean men's red button-down shirt, the buyer wants to return it. First, I'm going to delete the numbers from all of these columns except for cost of goods. I'm going to come back and snatch, meaning copy and paste, those columns from before, date listed, to cost of goods. I'm going to go back to active. I'm going to find the next open line and just paste it back in. Then once I come back here, you can either delete this row entirely out of your spreadsheet, or you can come here and just delete the information. And the great thing with Google Sheets is that anytime you enter data, it's automatically saving to your Google Drive, so you don't have to go in anywhere and save it. it's automatically saving it to your drive. So that's what I have on the basic spreadsheet. Now let's go ahead and take a look at the premium spreadsheet. First thing you want to do is come to the category trends and the store trends tab. You'll see that these are empty. This allows you to put in your own information into this field. So I've given you 25 rows to enter in up to 25 categories of items that you want to start capturing. So let's fill in a few now and I'll show you how easy this is. Let's say you sell electronics and you want to capture data on electronics. Let's say you sell golf clubs. You also sell dishes, plushes, men's shirts, women's shirts, men's jeans, and let's say women's jeans. You can put in here whatever you want that's suitable for your business, but just fill up as many of these 25 as you want with what you're wanting to look at. And then I'm gonna make up a code for each of these categories. So you make the code that works for you. You make it as short or as long as you want. Obviously make it easy so that it's easy to remember and you don't have to constantly keep going back and forth to try and figure out what your codes are. But for electronics, I'm just gonna do an E. For golf clubs, I'm gonna do a GC. For dishes, I'm gonna do D. Plushes, I'll do a P. For men's shirts, I'll say MSH. For women's shirts, I'll say WSH. Men's jeans, MJ, and women's jeans, WJ. You keep these here and make sure that you don't change these later on or it's gonna mess up all of the data. So once you lock in a code, keep it that code. Now let's go to our store trends. This is going to be blank as well, and you have up to 25 rows to decide what stores you want to look at, what data you want to look at from different stores. The category trends is going to tell you how much certain items are selling for on average. Alternatively, the store trends are going to show you which stores are performing the best and which ones aren't doing so well. So maybe you can eliminate a few stores that you go to if they're not giving you great stuff and continue to focus on those stores that are doing well. This is where you're going to come in and just put in a few stores that you want to measure the data from. So let's say Goodwill in Dallas. I'm not in Dallas, but we'll just make this up. Let's say Salvation Army Dallas. And you kind of get the idea. You can start to pull in the 25 stores that you want to measure in your area. And again, let's make up a code for each of these. Those are the codes that I've made up. Again, don't change these, leave those once you get them. You can change them now, but as soon as you start entering sales, you need to really leave them alone or it's going to mess with your information. If you end up finding a new store, like let's say 3 months after you get the spreadsheet and you want to add it, you can always add it. Just don't change the ones you have in here. So once you have 25 or up to 25 unique codes in here, you're good to go. And then the same, if you come in here later on, you realize you want to add a code or a category for to measure, that's fine. You can always add, just don't change the ones you have. Units that you've sold of those items are blank because we haven't sold any, so we're gonna leave that alone. Now let's hop over to the platforms tab, and then you'll notice this platform X column. That's just a platform that I've given you to use to have an extra one to measure. So let's say that there's a platform that out there that I didn't account for, like Tradesy or Kitizen, or you sell on Etsy and you want to measure that data, use platform X. Of course, we've got no sales in here, so everything should say 0 when you get this spreadsheet. Let's go back to our active listings tab. Very similar to the basic spreadsheet, again, with the exception of these two columns. Now we've created codes, so now we can go ahead and start to fill out the data. So let's say on January 1st, I list that men's L Bean button-down shirt, medium, red. I'm gonna put in 1 unit. SKU, let's just put it in B3. When you get to the store code column, you're gonna come to the store trends tab and you're gonna find the store that you have listed here that you bought it from. Let's say that for this batch that I'm listing, I bought everything at Goodwill Dallas. Code is GWD. It's pretty easy to remember. I'm gonna come in here and put store code of GWD. And then same thing for category code. This is a men's shirt. And remember, for men's shirt, my code is MSH. So when I come back to this form, I'm gonna put in men's shirts. Now, if you have something you're listing that you don't have a store code for, or you don't have a category code, that's okay, just leave it blank. So after you've hit the code, you're obviously gonna put in the price that you paid, just like we did the last time, and you've got notes if you need it there. I'm gonna go ahead and throw in another one just so I can log this one later in the sales. All right, so now I'm back and I've got a handful of listings in here. Just like we did on the last one, we're gonna go over to the sales tab to list a sale. there's going to be a slight difference, and let me show you what it is. So let's pretend this Sony DVD player sold. We're going to come in here and go ahead and grab from column A all the way through J, so date, listed date to the cost, copy it, and then we're going to paste it right under date listed. And again, it goes ahead and throws in the numbers in the columns that they need to be in. You'll see SKU, store code, category code, and we've got a few blanks we need to fill in. I listed this item on January 2nd. Let's pretend today is April 2nd. So I'm gonna put 4 for April. Remember, I don't need to do anything with days to sell. That will be auto-populated. Date sold, we're gonna say 4/2, obviously, because it sold on the 2nd. Then all this obviously fills in, so we're gonna jump ahead to site code. What you put into this site code column will go into this platforms tab here at the bottom. So this is where you put in the platform it's sold on. So let's say this Sony DVD player sold on Facebook. I'm gonna put an F for Facebook, and then we're gonna fill in the rest just like we did. Sales price, let's say we sold it for 95 bucks. On Facebook, the buyer pays, so I don't necessarily need to put a shipping income in there because it's all handled through Facebook. I'm also not gonna have a shipping fee because I'm not paying for it myself. The platform fee, let's just say it's 5 bucks. I don't have a promoted fee and I don't have a processing fee. So right away, we sold this for 95. It cost us 10. We had a $5 fee. Total of $15 in expenses, and we made a profit of 80 bucks. Now, obviously, when you're doing this, you're gonna be going in order from when you start chronologically as the days go by. So the last thing we need to do is go back and delete this out of our active. Let's go ahead and grab another sale. I'm gonna grab this first one here, copy and paste it, and I'm just gonna throw in some random months, even though they're not gonna be sequentially just for the purposes of this video. For you, it will be because you're gonna be going in order as things sell. But let's say this sold in January, and we need to go ahead and paste this, almost forgot. Date sold, we'll say it sold on 1/31. And this shirt sold on eBay for $25 plus 5 shipping. My shipping fee ended up being $483. My platform fee ended up being, we'll say, $375. Let's say this did sell promoted for $2 and I didn't have a PayPal or processing fee. So I've got everything entered in here. I'm gonna go ahead and go back and delete this from listing. Let's log one more and then we'll see how these all play out in the next few tabs. So let's say this sold in November. I almost forget to paste every time. All right, so we've pasted it in. We sold this set of 6 plates from Williams-Sonoma. Let's say it sold on November 10th, and we sold it on Mercari for a sales price of $75 plus 15 shipping. And let's say when we go to ship it, that our shipping fee really is only $12.75. Our platform fee on Mercari, let's say, is $469, and then the only other thing we would have would be a processing fee. Let's say it's $250. So as you can see, I've got this one in. We're gonna go ahead and delete it from over here. Come back to sales, and for this great sale of 75 plus shipping on this plate set, we made $61.06. So I've logged 3 sales now. Let's go ahead and take a look at what they've done in the other spreadsheets. Just like we did on the basic, we find our day, and then we should have some numbers in here that show us things that have sold. So right away we had, let's see, we had an April sale. So April 2nd, we made $95 in sales. We had a January 31st sale of 30 bucks. And then we had a November sale on the 10th for 90. So you can obviously see that the sales that we're entering in have populated into daily sales. If you have multiple sales in one day, it's gonna add them all into that day. And you can see your monthly totals have added up at the bottom. $30 in sales for January, so far $95 for April, and 90 for November. Let's move on to the next one, monthly. So you can see that we've got 3 sales populating into these months, and I won't go over this information that much just because I already did go over it. I'm only gonna just kind of refer to the sales that I plugged in just to kind of give you ideas, but those 3 units are populating in here. We've got our total sales for the year. We've got total units sold here. All these numbers start to populate in here for the appropriate sales as you enter the data. For those 3 sales that we put in, our total sales on all platforms, we've got our January, our April, and our November sales all showing up on these graphs, and they will adjust as you continue to put in data. So that's very similar to the basic, as you can see. Let's go ahead and jump into the tabs that aren't on the basic, and I'll explain those, starting with our platforms tab. So we logged an eBay sale in January, and you can see this eBay sale, one sold for 30 bucks January, and it gives us the average sales price of $30. We logged a Facebook sale in April for 95 bucks. Average sales price. And then we added a November sale in Mercari, one unit sold for 90 bucks. So those three have populated into this platforms tab. And you can see that the bottom totals for each of these platforms will start to sum up how much you've made in sales on the year for each of those platforms. So you can kind of quickly gauge percentage of business and how that's looking as far as what platforms are doing the best for you. And then when you come in here, you'll notice that 3 of these charts are already starting to populate because those are the sales we've entered in: eBay, Facebook, and Mercari. You'll go by month, and these charts will each show you your sales for each platform, so you can see whether they are going up or down and just what the trends are there. So I think that's pretty self-explanatory. For each of these platforms, you've got units sold and average sales price, which I think are probably more of the crucial numbers that you want to know. You could get into more numbers as well, and that may come out on a future spreadsheet. But as for right now, I think this will be plenty. Now let's jump over to these next 2 tabs, the category and store trends. So when we jump into the category trends tab, you'll see that it starts to automatically calculate your sales based on the categories. And you can quickly see with, let's say, electronics, how many units you sold, your total sales, average sales price, and your average profit is per item. And you can quickly come in here and sort by largest to smallest. So let's say I want to know which of all of these categories is selling for the highest sales price. So you're going to highlight the column and then sort the sheet. You'll notice that the way I sorted it goes from smallest to largest, but I can quickly get an idea for those items that are selling for more amounts. You can also do the opposite, sort it the other way where it's the largest down, and then say I want to sort by average profit per item. I can come in here, do the same to that, and quickly see which of my categories are selling for more profit. Moving on to the store trends tab, it's going to be the same as category. You're going to use it the exact same. You'll notice that 3 stores populated because we put that data into the sales tab, and it's telling me how much profit per unit these stores are bringing in. So I could quickly come in here, sort these, and understand that Goodwill Fort Worth right now out of my data is bringing in the most profit, and maybe I should focus on Goodwill Fort Worth. And then lastly, you'll notice that my end of year totals are all populating into here as well. And just like I showed you on the basic, if a buyer needs to return an item and you need to put that listing back in active because it got returned, you'll come in here and remove everything but cost of goods sold, because that's still a cost that you have. You'll copy from date listed to the cost of goods, and then you'll come in here to the very bottom line and paste it back into your listing, and then you can remove that platform as well. And then of course, you'll come in here and delete the row, and that will take it out from your monthly. You'll see that was November. It's no longer there, it's been deleted. Well, that's gonna do it for today's video. Thanks so much for watching. And if you have any questions whatsoever, please don't hesitate to reach out. I'll do my best to help you as best I can. This is Jason signing off. Hope you have a great week, and we'll catch you on another video. Bye.